Keep public lands in public hands.
In public hands.
Keep public lands
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 In public hands.
All right, thank you very much, everybody. I'm your MC today. My name is Mary Hollow. I'm the Executive Director of a regional land trust located here in Helena, Montana, Prickly Pear Land Trust. Prickly Pear Land Trust gets to celebrate this year 20 years. 20 years of ensconcing the capital of Montana, the dome of this building, in the very public lands that we're here to celebrate today. Every time you drive up Montana Avenue, I want you to think about that, and I want you to look up at the dome and recognize that what you're looking at is not just the dome of the capital of Montana, but the public lands that each and every one of you, every day, are making possible in this state and throughout the nation. All right, we have a very special guest today. He needs no introduction. I've had the opportunity of working with several offices throughout my tenure, and I can guarantee you that Jon Tester's Senate office is absolutely the #1 proponent and our biggest fan in Washington, D.C. when it comes to public lands. From the day that Jon stepped into the office of U.S. Senator and today as our senior U.S. Senator, put your hands together and help me welcome Senator Jon Tester.
Thanks, Mary. Thank you all for being here. God, I just got to tell you, I wish we got some folks to show up for this, I feel like a sardine. It's good. It's good to have you all here because, how'd that saying go again, Mary? Keep our public lands.
In public hands.
All right, yes. So you guys know the statistics. I'm going to say one, and I want you to say the second one. I want to see if you've been paying attention. Our public lands power is $7 billion a year in Montana's economy. How many jobs it create? How many jobs? Lots and lots. 73,000, okay? So, there's your statistic. Where's Peter Johnson at? Peter was over here. Peter, you still writing for the newspaper? You're not? Damn it. Well, tell your friends who are still in the business, $7 billion, 73,000 jobs, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you that, and we are here because there are folks out there that want to sell this. Now, and not just no, but you got it. And in fact, there happens to be a political party in this state that is part of their platform is to get rid of our public lands. I'm telling you what. Needs to be taken out. That's right. And I'm telling you, it needs to be taken out. And from a federal level, and we're going to have a little fun in a minute, but from a federal level, we were one vote away from getting Land and Water Conservation Fund, LWCF, the best conservation tool we've got, from being permanently reauthorized, okay? You know who that one vote was? Yeah, it was the guy that the Republican Party brought to campaign against me here a few months back, okay? All right? This is, no, Mike Lee, Governor, stick to the script for Christ's sakes, okay? Stick to the script. But we showed him, And we're going to continue to work to fully reauthorize Land Water Conservation Fund when we go back. But I'm telling you, there's probably not a lot of folks in Washington, D.C. that I serve that are watching this. So I'm going to bring Robin Madison. Robin Madison, where are you at? Right front. You got to turn around, Robin. Because we're going to make a little video that we're going to send back to my friend. Okay? And it's going to be pretty simple. And since we've got 3 floors, you guys up there? Yeah. Is there anybody across the same way? Huh? You guys are going to say no. You got it? It's pretty easy. You can even make the YWCA thing if you want. Now the second deck here, you're going to say W. Can you handle that? Can you handle that? And now I'm going to part the masses right here. Right here. Split right here. Okay? Yeah, you got to split. Take it away. Go left. Right there. Anyway, you get the idea. You guys are going to say C. You guys are going to say F, okay? You guys are going to say C. Say C. C. You guys say F, right? Now, L's up there. You're at a big disadvantage, so I got to scream it. Let's go. C. F. C. And we're going to get it reauthorized, okay? Love you, Montana. Love you guys.
How proud are we to have that senior senator from Montana? I'm excited and proud to announce our next speaker. He hails from the Flathead Valley, and Ryan and I have been friends for quite a while, and he has worn several hats as a public lands leader. Ryan grew up on a ranch. He currently serves as the VP for Kimber, one of America's most successful firearms manufacturers. He's the current board chair for Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. He's a friend, and as with most good leaders, I need to point out his amazing wife who's back there, Sarah, who's here to support him all along the way, as is the rest of their family. But Ryan Busse, come on up.
I gotta say, I didn't know I was coming to the Montana Badass Convention. Sarah told me I shouldn't give a history lesson here, but when we walked in, Alec, American Land Council, was passing these out. So I think we need a little history lesson, so here goes. For almost 250 years, Americans have been fighting to defend the bold idea that we can govern ourselves. It's an idea that is the envy of the entire globe, and we have fought bloody wars across this globe to defend that battle. To defend that principle. We are good at defending things. But as Americans, we are not just called to defend, but also to mend cracks and prevent wounds in our most important foundations. We have never just defended. Great groups of Americans had rallied and fought to repair the ugly injustice of slavery, to improve civil rights, to shore up the crumbling from discrimination. And while it may never be perfect, we know we will never stop fighting to make it stronger. And so today, we are here to send up a great rallying cry for the truest of all American ideals. This great public land that we all own. This is the manifestation of democracy. It proves that we trust ourselves with ownership of something real. Rocks, dirt, trees, rivers, mountains, deserts. These are real things. They are not ethereal ideas. They are not paper. They are not just words. They are real, and they are here for us to touch and use and enjoy and live within. And those of us who sleep under the big sky know this better than anyone. Today we celebrate defense, but we call for action to improve them. Nowhere else on this globe do the people own such a wide swath of true natural assets, perhaps the most true living example of equal justice. This land is one of the few places where every man, woman, and child is equal when they set foot upon that land. And as my hero, Teddy Roosevelt, reminded us, this country will not be a good place for any of us to live in until we make it a good place for all of us to live in. And we owe untold debts to those who helped establish and protect the ownership of these lands. Let's remember, this did not just happen by accident. It did not just appear. It was not a gift. It was not an inheritance. It was conceived of and fought for by real people. Common people who did great things. They had names like Muir and Roosevelt and Abbey and Udall and Mansfield and Metcalf. And they now have names like Posowitz and Newberg and Tawney and Tester and Bullock. And I have seen with my own eyes what real people like you, with all of your names, will do when our ownership is threatened. Like past generations who fought to protect our freedoms, you have laced up your boots and showed up to defend what belongs to all of us. I have seen you vote and protest and write and contribute and join and tweet and lobby and run for office. And I am here to say thank you. Someday, many of your names will be added to that grand list of public lands patriots. And we all know that Montana is not just a random place. It is the last best place. We are incredibly blessed to live and prosper amongst these public lands. I have spent a professional career in the outdoor industry, selling equipment that is used in and around our public lands, employing dozens of good people who do the same thing and contribute to our communities. These lands have been the professional magnet for me, for the people I work with, and for tens of thousands of other people in this state. We are here in this wonderful state because of these lands. My family has developed a deep connection to these places. Badge, right here, my son, named after the Badger 2 medicine. Lander, my other son, named for that iconic public lands town just to our south in Wyoming. We've made our living from the economy that these public lands create. Our boys have caught their first fish there, shot their first birds off a point, taken their first deer and elk. They've harvested mushrooms and huckleberries and rafted rivers and skied slopes and hiked trails and swam in lakes. Without any doubt, if you give my boys, my family, the opportunity to choose a trip, it will be a hunting trip or a river trip on our public lands. Just last week, this youngster who has done nothing but tell me he wanted to live under the bright lights of New York City and be a star for his entire life. The second to the last day of bird season, we were under the bright lights, but it was the bright sunshine of Montana. We were hiking down a ridge on that bright sunny day, and Badge stopped me halfway down. He said, "Dad, you know all that stuff I told you about that city stuff? Don't believe it. I never want to be in a place where I can't do this." Every year, we give our boys the choice of their birthday meals. Their birthdays are coming up here in a couple days, which I've been reminded of many times. But they usually select elk steak or pheasant soup taken on our public lands. Our public lands have taught our boys lessons that Sarah and I can never teach them. What a river current feels like, how to approach a bugling elk, where to cast a hopper. Our family is immensely lucky. We are all immensely lucky. But to whom much is given, much is expected. And so I want to challenge myself, my friends, my family, and every one of you. Now is the time that we must stand up and fix the crack and mend the walls of our public estate. We cannot just be consumptive users of this legacy. We cannot just stand upon the foundation. We must make it stronger. We stand here at the beginning of a new legislative session, and now is the time to fix the obvious cracks in that foundation. Now is the time to prevent further attacks. We all know that there are nearly 2 million acres of public property in this state that are landlocked that we cannot get to without purchased easements or purchased properties. Habitat Montana, a visionary program established 32 years ago to attack that exact thing, will be viciously attacked in this cycle. I call on all of you right now to protect that access program, to strengthen it, as well as help pass a corner crossing bill. But none of this can just happen. You must show up. You must call. You must testify. You must remember. And then you must make them know you will vote. Even with your impassioned defense, there are still those who wish to strip ownership, transfer control, block access to roads and trails with illegal gates. There'll be a bill introduced in this session to increase penalties for this blatant theft. Snug up your boots. It's like a buddy called you and he's got an elk down. Bring a pack frame and some tight boots, and let's bring that thing home. And we must not waste time celebrating our success, because as we let down our guard, new battlefronts are launched without notice. Bills that strip protection from our last wilderness areas are jammed onto us with no opportunity to comment. Petroleum leases are let in the Big Hole Valley with almost no opportunity to comment.
That's right.
If we want to maintain our economy and lifestyle, then we must fund it. Federal and state agencies have been starved, and this must stop. The bottom line is, we cannot turn our backs for a second. This is a big battle. We all know it is. People everywhere are watching. I've been fortunate enough to travel this country, and I'm here to tell you, governments in every state, people in every state, look to Montanans to lead on public lands. What we do in Montana is bigger than us, and it's bigger than our state. We set the course for the rest of the country. We are being called to lead. Leaders do not shy from battles, they run to them. They do not need to be told what's wrong, they find it and they fix it. I know you will do it. Just step up and make the calls and lobby and vote and organize, and like you are doing today, rally. You are the leaders of our generation. You are the people our children will tell stories about. You have names that will be added to that grand public list of public lands patriots. You will make the last best place even better. God bless America. God bless our public lands. God bless Montana. God bless every one of you.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Batch. And thanks to all of you for helping grow leaders like Ryan in our public lands arena, right? And here's to the next generation of leaders. I had the pleasure of meeting our next speaker when she was about 18 years old. I knew when I first met Maggie Carr that she was going to go on and do amazing and great things in her life. I knew that she would be a powerhouse, and today it gives me such great pride and such great excitement for the future of our state to have leaders like Maggie Carr standing up here today. Maggie is the founder and owner for Dropstone Outfitting, operating out of Shoto, Montana, where she and her family have over 100 years of history on that landscape. Maggie Carr.
Wow. This is awesome. Absolutely awesome. For someone who spends most of their life outside and away from big crowds like this is not exactly where I expected to find myself. That being said, this is one large group of people I am very happy to be spending time with. And talk about a cause that is worth getting excited about. Who else here thinks this is worth caring about? Thank you for having me, and I am honored to stand with you in support of our public lands. As Mary said, I'm Maggie, and I co-own my business with a gal named Eve Bardwell, and we're based out of Shoto, where I grew up. To me, public land is not just a way to recreate and get outside. It is my way of life. I work exclusively on public lands. These lands have been fundamental to my upbringing and the way that I think about the world. I was raised along the Rocky Mountain front, only a mile from the nearest public land access, and almost every single one of my jobs have been on public lands. At times, I have taken them for granted. I think we probably all have, because it seemed so basic to what I had built my life around. In the last 5 years or so, I have felt that foundation shift, and I have realized that there are threats to public lands, and these threats hit me hard, not just because I love these areas, and I do, we all do, but also because it is a threat to my livelihood. The way I make a living in Shoto, a small rural town where it can be very difficult to find a job, I bet a lot of us relate to the small town thing. We take folks on stock-supported hiking adventures in the Bob Marshall Wilderness. We spend our summers hiking and packing mules through some of the most scenic, remote, and vast public land areas in the lower 48. It is the hardest work I've ever done, and I love it. Even if I have to fix a few blisters along the way, or a few hundred blisters, or a few thousand blisters. We have the awesome opportunity of showing our guests the beauty and the wild and the grandeur of their own public lands, which they might not otherwise have been able to see. And many of them have told me that spending a few nights... What? What was that? Who said that? And many of them have told me that spending a few nights camped out underneath the stars has only enhanced their appreciation for these lands. It is an honor to explore with our clients, and it is also important to me for another very basic reason. As I mentioned before, it is the way that I make a living. It's the way that a lot of us make a living. And the trickle-down effect to my community is real. Our business employs other locals and generates money that is spent locally, which helps keep our small towns alive. Public lands are important for what they offer my community by way of access to riding, hiking, and hunting, to name a few. And also, these lands are crucial through the revenue generated through tourism. Public lands are crucial to the health of my community, to our entire community. In the last 2 years, Outfitter and Guide Services was the 4th largest category for all out-of-state spending, bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars. Outfitter and Guide Services are 4th, only to the big 3. That would be fuel, food, and lodging. Hundreds of millions in Outfitter and Guide Services represent a lot of people who have accessed our public lands. And we've got a great state, folks, and people, resident and non-resident alike, want to explore it. It's good for local economy and great for public lands. And the economics are very important, but it's only one of 1,000 pieces of evidence of why our public lands need to be protected and cherished, including for hiking, fishing, hunting, skiing, biking, ATVing, horseback riding and packing, bird watching, I'm not done yet, sorry, mushroom picking, or simply sitting in the quiet of nature, for jobs and local economy, for future generations, for environmental health, for wildlife habitat, and the list goes on. I think we all can agree that the legacy of public lands in the United States is a great honor that we have as citizens. And it is a great honor of mine to work in the Bob Marshall, one of our most wild and revered wilderness areas. I'm also very proud of our outfitter and guide heritage. The Scapegoat Wilderness and the Rocky Mountain Front Heritage Act, for example, would not have passed without the hard work of folks like Tom Edwards, Smoke Elser, Dusty Crary, Gene Sense, and two people very near and dear to my heart, Bill and Polly Cunningham. These are only a few of the folks. These people have spent most of their lives wandering the mountains with guests from far and wide and are some of the strongest public land advocates I can think of. I am honored to call them colleagues and to continue in their footsteps. Every time I'm riding down the trail through some picturesque mountain scene with the mule's ears bobbing rhythmically and the loads looking just right, I think to myself, damn, I am one lucky human being. This landscape is so incredible, so immense, so wild. And it is remarkable that we all own it, every single one of us, regardless of wealth or status. And this is a privilege that we cannot take for granted. Public lands are ours to continue to cherish and enjoy and fiercely protect. And that's why we're here today, folks, to fiercely protect them. Thank you so much, Maggie Carr. How are we doing out there? Hey, I just noticed a sign I want to point out. Sanders County, baby. You guys drove a long way. All right, our next speaker I'm really excited to have here. Dr. Shane Doyle is a member of our Crow Nation. He's a professor of Native American Studies and recently served on the governor's Parks and Focus team. Shane?
I only skidded out once, so thanks for not giving me a hard time on that. Mike forgot my lemon water. I was supposed to have a little bit of shot of that before I go home. Anyway, what an honor to be here. I just want to thank everyone for inviting me. The Montana Wilderness Association, our honorable guests here, Senator Jon Tester, our governor, lieutenant governor, just everyone, and all of you. By the way, that song was for all of you. Thank you. A very old Northern Cheyenne honor song was passed along to me by my uncle to honor folks who really represent what all of us, each and every one of us, want to be in our lives. Straight, true, high-minded, big-hearted, compassionate human beings that are not afraid to work hard and say what they believe is right. And so, I want to thank you. Again, my name is Shane Doyle. In Opsalaga, my name is Chilipkalia, means Old Buffalo Bull. And I brought my daughter with me today. She thought she was going to be at home watching SpongeBob, but instead she's here in one of the largest sweat lodges I've ever been in. Told Mike, somebody open the door in here. First round's over. This is my daughter, her name is Ruby, and in Crow, Salaga, her name is Biachigada, a pretty woman. So I'm glad she was able to come with me. She drove for me while I texted and helped write up this speech. And I got here and I thought, well, you know, the first place I gotta go is get a donut. And so I went to the Dirty Dozen, quite a good shop. Yeah, shout out to Dirty Dozen. Been drinking coffee all morning. Boy, I better run in here and use the restroom real quick. And there on the wall, written in Sharpie, for a good time, call your public lands, it said. Whoa, this is the right bathroom for me. Great to be here at this intertribal gathering. This is quite an intertribal gathering. Every ethnicity, every group, every age, we're all in it together here. And we should be, and why not? It's our public lands. And I have a great deal of love and in my heart for the public lands. I want to tell a little story about our last great chief of the Crow Nation, is knowledge, the Pagan, Salish, Pia, what the Crow people call the Crazy Mountains, to fast for a dream. He spent 4 days in the Crazy Mountains fasting on Crazy Peak. After 4 days, no food and water, still didn't have a dream, so he cut off the tip of his index finger on his left hand, banged it against a rock until finally he was able to fall asleep and have his dream. And in his dream, what he saw was the Bozeman Trail, the first real influx of people into non-Indians into Montana, the first major influx. And when he came back to the camp and had his dream interpreted, he was told by elders what his dream was trying to tell us, which was, we're never going to make war against these European Americans. That's the wrong move for us. In fact, we should work with them, try to negotiate with them, do the best we can to be trustworthy friends to them, so that we could all benefit mutually from a respectful relationship. And ever since that time, my tribe has followed that advice, followed that vision that came from Crazy Peak. And we've benefited substantially from it. And every time I drive along Interstate 90, over there by that great state park prairie dog town, and I can see that windsock blowing there over by Big Timber, I always like to take a look up at the Crazy Mountains and think about how important and sacred that place is to each and every one of us. And we may not even know it, but the impact that it's had on each and every one of us, our lives, those of our ancestors and of our children, And thankfully, for public lands, I can take my daughter, my other 4 children, my wife, my extended family, and each and every one of us in this building can go into those crazy mountains. Because most of them, at least half of those mountains, are owned by us, the public. And really, what more can you ask for? What more could any of us ask for than these incredible treasures of public lands that we have? We could ask for more, that's right. Good answer. You're hired. I love it. Yeah, we do need more public lands, but our number one priority right now is protecting the ones that we have. Making sure that we don't have any threats to them. You know, Montana, we've had our great speakers here before me did a tremendous job of describing just the beauty, the natural beauty of Montana. There's really no place like it in the world. South central Montana, you get up on any of those big mountain ranges, whether it's the Crazy Mountains, the Absaraka, the Beartooth, the Castles, the Little Belts, the Belts right over here, whether you're over by Billings, the Bull Mountains, you know, you can see the big snowies from there, the Pryors, the Wolf Mountains. Over off to the north and to the west, you see the Bear Paws and the Little Rockies. You see the high woods over by Great Falls. And as you travel around Montana, each and every one of us knows exactly where we're at.
Yes!
We're in God's country. And like, you know, Abraham Lincoln had a few great quotes. One of his best ones was, "God must sure love poor people because he sure made a whole bunch of them." And you know, I mean, when you're thinking about the folks who live here in Montana, my relatives and the people who I grew up with, we're poor. But we're so rich with the natural treasure that this place, we wouldn't trade our lives for anything with anybody. Thank you. 2 years ago, I was honored to join with other Montanans in a group called Hold Our Ground. Yeah, great honor. We defended our national monuments against the threat of our Interior Secretary from shrinking and eliminating them. And I'm proud that we fended off that threat and kept the Missouri River Breaks national monuments as it is. Unfortunately, my relatives in the Four Corners region were not as fortunate. And I want to take a moment right now to simply recognize the fact that our Interior Secretary ignored a 5-tribe coalition in the Southwest and millions of other Americans when he recommended that the Bears Ears National Monument be dismantled. That was one of the greatest mistakes that any Interior Secretary has made, and I'm really praying and hoping and working towards this end that it's not going to come to pass, that we're going to be able to keep those Bears Ears. Again, as a historian, as a tribal member, I think back about those old timers, and Plenty Coups comes to mind. If you were around today, would you be a champion of public lands? Well, long before he died, on one of his trips to Washington D.C, he visited Mount Vernon and was told this was the great white chief, this was his home. He left it to the public. And Plenty Coups said, I'm going to do that same thing. And before there was even a state park system in Montana, he dedicated his home and his private land, not to his tribe, not to his closest relatives, but to this state, the state of Montana, the state that cost him 90% of his 30 million acre inheritance that was guaranteed to him through the 1851 treaty. Despite all of his losses and all of the suffering, he still dedicated his last remaining piece of ground and his last remaining piece of property to public domain. What a leader! What a great American, what an incredible Montanan Plenty Coups was. And I think he's looking down right now, very happy at this incredibly charged atmosphere in this room. How could anyone not be completely taken with the electricity, with the fortitude, with the determination in this room right now? I'm just taken back by it. I want to thank all of you so much. And one last final word here. You know, I had the privilege of serving on our distinguished governor's Parks and Focus Commission last year. And what a great experience. There were some incredible people. Yes, thank you, Governor, for setting up that commission. And we took a year, some very careful, considerate, thoughtful recommendations, bipartisan. And I'm urging our legislature to take a look at the recommendations that our commission has come up with and to help implement them. Because we have shown a light on a path forward. And we wouldn't have been able to do that without the governor, without all the hard work of the commissioners. But here we are, so let's get it going here in this next session and keep our lands, keep our state parks integral. Thank you so much, everyone. Great to be here. God bless you. God bless Montana and our public lands.
Thank you, Shane. Our next speaker, and he's our last speaker, he also needs absolutely no introduction. He is one of my absolute favorite people to introduce, especially on this issue, because he gets so fired up. We are so lucky in this state to have Governor Bullock and the leadership that he's provided in his time as our governor. He has helped to raise public lands and the conservation issues in Montana to a national level and helped to make us some of the best in the nation. Our public lands are a point of pride, thanks in large part to the great work and leadership of Governor Steve Bullock.
Thanks, Mary. Thank all of you. Is there anyone here from Eastern Montana? How about Northern Montana? How about Sanders County? Thank everybody from all corners of this state for coming out today. This sure as heck isn't the first time that we've gathered in this rotunda to celebrate, to reflect, to commit to the next generation. And guess what? This time, there's a lot of reasons to celebrate. With over 3,000 bills already in the legislative hopper, over 3,000, not a one of them is trying to attack our public lands or take them away from us so far. And you and I know why that is. It's because your voices ring damn loud in this Capitol. We all know we're not in the clear yet. We never know what could happen with some of these draft bills. So each and every one of you need to make sure that your voice is heard by everyone in this legislature, everyone in this building, and make them know that these lands belong to all of us and not them. Our public lands are our heritage. Our public lands are our birthright. Our public lands are a matter of tradition. Our public lands are one of the great equalizers, no matter who you are, where you came from, how much money you have, whether you're a fly fisher or a bait fisher, a cross-country skier or a snowmobiler. whether you're a bird hunter or a bird watcher. Each and every one of us equally own these public lands. And it's more than that, they're also an economic driver. The outdoor recreation economy generates $7.1 billion in consumer spending each year, 71,000 jobs right here in Montana. We have 12.5 million visitors each year to our state. I've said it before and I'll say it again, they ain't coming for our Walmarts. They can do that at home. They're coming for our world-class hunting, our fishing, our recreational opportunities, our one-of-a-lifetime encounters with wildlife. They're coming for our clean air, our clean water, and our wild places. And all that they come for, we must never take for granted. Because with this land also comes great responsibility, a responsibility that I know each and every single one of you that showed up today stand by my side to support. Yeah, we've been sending messages for years. Sure, we've sent it to that second floor of the Capitol. We've sent that message the entire 2,150.8 miles between Helena, Montana and Washington, D.C. And they've heard our message. We've sent the message that access to our public lands and our growing outdoor economy should be promoted, not threatened. Our public lands belong to every Montanan and every American. We've sent the message that public lands must stay in public hands. But make no mistake, attacks on our public lands are real. We must continue to speak with one loud voice to protect them. Couple examples. Land and Water Conservation Fund, now been expired for over 100 days. Congress needs to do its job, reauthorize this vital program that supports conservation projects, hunting and fishing access all across Montana. Speaking of Congress, we're in the middle of a reckless federal government shutdown. Come tomorrow, it'll be the longest in our nation's history. It's led to trash piling up at Yellowstone and Glacier. It's led to cancellations of visits, the inability to do off-season work. It's hurting the local economies of our gateway communities. Our parks and our public servants are not bargaining chips for policies. Time to open up that government. Look, and even without that shutdown, our outdoors are facing unprecedented threats from increased visitation, growing communities, ailing infrastructure, and the obvious impacts of climate change. Just last year, we saw some politicians in Montana try to cut the public out of decisions over our wilderness study areas. And let's not forget we have a president who has consistently attacked our public lands. Most notably in Utah, where he led the largest elimination of protected lands in U.S. history, acting in defiance of over 100 years of history. Of 16 presidents, designated 157 national monuments, dating all the way back to Teddy Roosevelt in 1906, when he first used the Antiquities Act to protect the Devil's Tower in Wyoming. The president does not understand the value of our public lands, and an attack on public lands anywhere is an attack on public lands everywhere. It flies in the face of who we are as Montanans and who we are as Americans. So don't kid yourself. The threats are real. We have to continue to build up our voices, to be even louder. So when those misguided politicians try to threaten our public lands, they can't break through your noise. And it's not just plain defense. Think of the opportunities to build the trails and open spaces that'll expand the reach of the outdoor economy to downtown main streets all across our state. Think of the ways that we can ensure our public wildlife can coexist with our private working landscapes, or the need to secure access to the over 1.5 million acres of landlocked public lands. We cannot and we must not leave to our kids and grandkids anything less than the unrivaled outdoor experience and heritage that our parents and grandparents worked so hard to preserve for us. We cannot and we must not let anyone or any corporate interest try to transfer or sell off our public lands. And I've said it before, standing at this very spot, and I'm pleased to say it again here now, anyone who wants a wholesale transfer of federal lands to the state, it ain't gonna happen, not on my watch. And what those folks damn well better realize, those who want to transfer our lands is the first step of taking them out of public hands. They better look at this crowd. They better hear your voices and realize it's not just not on my watch, it's not on our watch. Thank you so much for being out today. Thank you for what you're doing each and every day to protect our public land. Thanks so much.
Everybody, you heard it loud and clear. Not on our watch, and this doesn't happen without each and every one of you. Each and every one of you showing up every single time. And I want you to make me one promise, that the next time you show up in this Capitol, and the next time you show up to the polls, that you bring 5 friends with you. We're going to start this rally or end this rally just the way that we started. We want to make it loud and clear in this building and all the way to Washington, D.C. Keep public lands in public hands.
Keep public lands in public hands. Keep public lands in public hands. Keep public lands in public hands. Keep public lands in public hands. Keep public lands in public hands.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming from all corners of the state. And thank you for all that you do for our public